Now, 4 more people have been added to the charge sheet in the Vrede Dairy Farm case. This is in Bloemfontein, involving the former Minister of Mineral Resources, Mosebenzi Zwane. Now, the other accused in the dock include the former Free State Agriculture Head of Department, Peter Thabethe, the CFO, Seipati, Dlamini, and Takisi, Masiteng, who testified at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry about the dairy farm matter. NewzrooM Afrika's Govan Whittles joining us live now from outside the court. Govan, good morning to you. Interesting comments from the ID, which is pursuing these cases, particularly the element around the extradition hearing that is scheduled, I think you said, tomorrow. Tell us more.
That's right, Oli. And this case with the Estina dairy farm, the Vrede Dairy Farm project, involves, of course, the 80 beneficiaries who never saw a cent of the shares, the 51% of the project that they were offered. It involves the former government officials, Peter Thabethe, Seipati, Dlamini, Takisi, Masiteng, but it also involves Kamal Vasram. He was the sole director of Estina. It may look like a Free State project, but the Gupta brothers are at the center of what the investigative directorate are trying to achieve here, the extradition from the UAE, of course. And we'll get into how this case relates to that matter and the Nulani Investments case. Of course, that's a 25 million rand case involving Iqbal Sharma, where a feasibility study was done on whether or not agricultural projects are worth doing here in the Free State. Eventually, Nulani Investments didn't conduct a feasibility study. Deloitte did it for much less, and the investigative directorate, the NPA, traced the money through several accounts to the Gupta brothers. That's the basis upon which they managed to issue those arrest warrants. Of course, by then, the Gupta brothers were out of the country. And tomorrow, in the High Court in Bloemfontein, they'll get judgment on whether or not the investigative directorate and the NPA provided enough evidence in their application or in the prosecution of the Nulani matter to warrant bringing them back into the country. Let's take it back a little bit to the Estina matter. An interesting matter here that I want Cindy Seboka, the spokesperson for the investigative directorate, to speak on. That's the matter involving Takisi Masiteng, a former witness at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, which said he was on leave and then came back and people had signed documents for him, but now he's in the dock with this matter. Why is that?
So for starters, the NPA Investigating Directorate has been investigating this matter for the longest time. We also then stumbled upon the Nulani matter, which was then enrolled initially, then Estina followed suit. So what we're basically saying is that all the accused here before court have a case to answer to, and it will become very apparent when the time comes. They have since been provided with disclosure of the docket for them to know exactly what it is they need to respond to. And then when the time comes, it will be made very clear that some of the stuff that was said by the accused here is not actually what transpired. You'd also know that Peter Thabethe also testified at the commission, Takisi Masiteng, as well as other beneficiaries, about 2 beneficiaries. If my memory serves me correctly, there was a Mr. Dlamini also who was supposed to benefit from this dairy farm project that did not benefit, that also testified at the commission. So some of the submissions made there, and now our independent investigations will show that it's different.
This matter comes back to court after being provisionally withdrawn by the NPA. At that point, serious questions were asked about the strength of the state's case. You have a lot more people in the dock here. On surface level, it appears that there's a much tighter case this time. How did you get from provisional withdrawal to having additional people in the dock with what appears to be a stronger case?
It was a brilliant strategy by our predecessors here in the NPA and the Free State who decided to withdraw this matter, because you'd know that matters are only enrolled and kept on the roll if we have evidence. If you do not have evidence as a prosecutor, it's your duty to then decide to withdraw a matter until you have all the information and you know where the people live, so you will be able to get them to actually come and account, especially if you do not deem them a flight risk. And you cannot hold people in perpetuum hoping to get evidence you do not know when you will get. So currently, as the NPA Investigating Directorate, we thank the work that was done by our predecessors here in the NPA in the Bloemfontein area. However, we have all our ducks in a row according to our assessment. However, once again, it will be the courts that will make that final determination.
Let's move to the Guptas. The judgment in the Nulani investment matter tomorrow will be a determining factor on whether or not the extradition of the Gupta brothers can happen. At the core of it, it appears to be whether whether or not the NPA's investigative directorate provided enough evidence to show that you could actually trace the money to the Gupta brothers and that they have a case to answer. How's the NPA and the ID feeling ahead of that judgment? Nervous?
So the judgment comes after a very drawn-out battle between ourselves as well as the various accused that brought that application requesting further and better particulars. Just to jog your memory also, from the very first appearance we then provided disclosure to the accused, which was a year odd ago. So it was more than enough time for the accused to request for further and better particulars. However, be it as it may, after arguments were heard last month, we anticipate or are eager to hear what the Honourable Judge has to say. If the judge says that we need to then be compelled to provide further and better particulars, we shall abide by that decision. However, currently it's in the court's hands and we'll wait to hear what is said.
Do you think that you're one step closer to extraditing the Guptas?
Like I made an analogy earlier, it's two houses. South Africa is a house owned by a man. The other country is a house owned by another man. We can't necessarily barge in, break the door and grab people and bring them back to account. We have to ask nicely and hope that that particular man agrees. So in this situation, we've sent through our request through the UAE and our using the Justice Department and various others that have so kindly assisted. We shall await for that particular decision.
Thank you so much. That's Cindy Siboka. She's the spokesperson for the investigative directorate. We'll be in that court when that judgment is read out tomorrow. Holly, it does look like much of the extradition will hinge on the outcome of that judgment. Of course, if the judge finds that the NPA and the ID didn't provide enough particulars, they just have to provide more, and that will draw it out even further. The Gupta brothers' arrest warrant, of course, related to that Nulani Investments case, 25 million rand, that was paid to Iqbal Sharma's company, Nulani Investments, for a feasibility study. And, of course, Mosebenzi Zwane, part of this case, the Estina Dairy Farm case. Spoke to him a little bit earlier. He said he wasn't worried, but did look very nervous about the case, particularly as it emerges that the South African Revenue Service is also looking into whether there was any tax compliance by the companies that were registered. The ID calls them shelf companies. That would make things a lot more serious, but definitely strengthen the government's case against those accused of corruption, fraud and money laundering in this matter. For now, it's back to you.
Govan Whittles, thank you very much indeed for that comprehensive update. Very interesting developments coming out of Bloemfontein. Let's